Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily Try. Today I have a guest that I followed for a very long time who did what I think a lot of us dream of doing and quit his job to pursue what he loves. He ran at a very high level at the University of Virginia and beyond and has quickly developed into a top level triathlete that many like myself can't wait to see how he progresses in every race. He's a massive following on YouTube where he documents the life of a struggle pro in a very real and honest way.
I completely disrespected triathlon training.
Showing us all the work and dedication it takes to be at the highest level. And he also creates some amazing music that backs those videos. So, Ari, it's great to have you on. Thanks for joining me. We don't live too far away, but it's great to finally get connected.
That was a very gracious intro. Thank you for that.
No worries, man. No, I don't think it is. I think it's all true. It's honestly amazing. The following you've created and the life that you've created for yourself.
Yeah, no, it's didn't turn out exactly how I thought it would, but yeah, I'm living the dream, kind of exactly what you said.
Yeah,
Found a way to make it all work.
You have, and I think we can all see that through the videos, man. And just chatting with you a little bit there before, I mean, you seem really excited to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I definitely am. Yeah, it's been my dream to be a professional athlete, and again, it's not, I'm not like on a shoe contract the way I always thought it would be. Is I'm a pro runner and I get a shoe contract and I just get paid to just wake up and train, and it looks a lot different than I thought it would. But at the end of the day, I can still prioritize training everything else, which is, to me, that's what it means to be a professional in most of the sense, I guess.
So I want to dive into everything, man. I want to hear your background. And for the listeners who might not have stumbled across you yet, tell us how you got started on this journey to becoming a pro.
So yeah, how far back do you want to go?
Let's go back, man. Let's hear it.
Okay, so it starts freshman year of high school. I didn't do any sports. I did like one season of soccer here and there, a bit of basketball. I think in middle school, all my friends were playing baseball, and I asked my parents if I could sign up for baseball. I went to one practice, and I said, "This is not for me. This sucks." So yeah, no, I didn't really find anything athletically that I enjoyed or that seemed to click. I learned how to like play guitar in middle school, and my music was sort of my identity throughout that time. And then I found cross country. My parents gave me a little push to join the team my freshman year, and it was immediate. My memory of joining the team was like something just clicked in my mind as far as, oh, I can train really hard and I'll get better. As far as I know, in my life, I had never been introduced to that concept before of like, you put in work for something and then you wait a couple days or a week or a month or whatever it is, so a little bit of delayed gratification, and then you will get better at it later on. So 14 years old, 15 years old, discovering that concept was like a game changer for me. And obviously running, cross country and track was what it was applied to. And yeah, I just got hooked. And I know for a lot of people, there's a social aspect that became, all of my friends became the people I was running with and even running against from other schools, which such as this guy, Spencer Brown, who that comes into play later on.
All right.
Yeah, I just like, I was effing off of school. All I wanted to do was run. I told my parents I don't need to get good grades. I'm gonna get into college because I'm gonna run fast enough. And that made them worried, and they still begged me to study. But it worked out. It worked out how I hoped. I got into the University of Virginia. I got an admission slot through just running fast enough. And so I spent the next 5 years at UVA under a number of different coaches, really finding myself as an athlete. I never wanted to give up, but I spent the first 2 years just mostly injured for like the majority of my freshman and sophomore year of college. And then it took me just sort of stepping back a little bit, figuring out how to train properly. And of course there's this whole, I've documented my overtraining many times on YouTube, but it's not a new concept. I've been doing it my entire career. So just always get ahead of myself, wanting to train more and more and more, kind of more than my body is able to handle. But I felt like I finally, in a sense, gave up on training too much my junior year. And then I spent the next 3 years training well, I would say. I had pretty much 3 years of very consistent training, no injuries really in that time, no major sicknesses, no major roadblocks. And I turned myself into like kind of a good high school level athlete. I almost made the indoor NCAA meet, set a school record in the 3K, and to the point where I was like, I can run professionally. Like I'm getting myself to that point.
Wow.
And then March 2020, everything gets canceled. I was actually ready. I thought I was going to get like a last minute invite to the NCAA championships.
Wow.
Because a number of people were scratched. But that didn't happen because, the day or two before, they canceled the entire meet. They canceled the rest of the season. They canceled the rest of the school year. And I was in grad school at that point, and I decided I was hating it. I was doing a computer science master's degree and just not enjoying it. And I had a job offer sort of lined up for the summer. When I finished the degree, I called my boss and I was like, "Hey, can I still have this job if I don't finish this degree?" And he's like, "Yeah, for sure. I don't care about that. Like, just come start working."
Oh, nice.
Fully remote job, software engineering, and it was flexible enough that I could, wake up early and run before work, and had enough time after work to run. So for the next, what is that? March until I guess October of 2020. I moved around, but I had this job and I was just running. So I ran my lease in Virginia, kept going until the end of the year, then moved to Boulder with my friend Spencer Brown, who I knew from high school, running against him in high school, who he has a huge YouTube channel, The Athlete Special. I'm sure some people listening are familiar with it. So training with him in Boulder I started to gain a bit of a following just from being in his videos. And then he got a contract with Brooks Running in Seattle. So we moved to Seattle. And again, this whole time I was like, I wasn't on any shoe contract, but I was able to train fairly professionally. My job was, flexible enough to run before and after work. Of course, running is way less time consuming than swimming and biking.
Yeah.
So it worked. And then I got a little injury October of 2020, which that would have been like the biggest injury I had in about 3 years. I'd mentioned I'd had 3 years of very consistent training. And then, I'm in Seattle. It's starting to rain pretty much every single day. And I had this old titanium bike that my uncle had given me, but couldn't really ride it outside, didn't have the gear. And so I bought a Wahoo kicker, and it's had like the power meter on it, and I could just kind of train the house down inside out on the back porch. And for whatever reason, I decided that would be a good time to start a YouTube channel. So I was like, okay, I'm injured, but I'm trying to stay fit on the bike, and I'm trying to come back to running. And, throughout this time, I completely fell in love with, like, not even biking, just riding the trainer, just doing Zwift workouts. So I made videos of that, trying to come back to healthy running.
Yeah.
And it took off pretty quick. And then a couple months later, I guess Talbot was perusing YouTube, or I don't know. He says he watched it from the very beginning. And so I was in Albuquerque on an altitude camp with Spencer and the Brooks team. And Talbot DMs me on Instagram and invites me to come out to Tucson and train with Lionel. And that kind of changed everything, because I wasn't like a triathlete at that time. I was just trying to run, but still not confident I could, run 100 miles a week. So I was biking a lot.
Okay.
So I was just using the bike as cross training, and I was loving it. But then, I went to Tucson, and I decided I would just go swim every day or so for a month and see what happens. And I think about 2 weeks in, Lionel says, "Hey, there's this triathlon in Phoenix. If you sign up for it, it's this weekend. Sign up for it. I'll give you everything you need." And I was like, "Oh, yeah,
Wow.
okay, for sure. I'll do a triathlon." He gives me his the green, or like the black and green bike, the kind of famous bike he rode in Kona. He's got the disc wheel. He's got his Blue 70 wetsuit, his Garneau tri-suit, his Aero helmet, literally everything. He just set me up with all the gear, and I signed up, and I won. And it was a local try. I kind of went in thinking, like, I don't know who's going to be here. I reckon I could probably just win it on the run. And that's kind of what happened. And
Jeez.
that was the end of it. I was a triathlete from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story. So, take me through and take us back to, I'm sure some people want to hear, what kind of times were you doing in university? What distances were you running? You said the 3K. What else were you doing? What kind of times? And then after university, what were you training for?
Yeah. So I guess my PBs that I ended with, so I ran 13:57 my junior year, and that was sort of a couple months into, or six or 7 months, maybe a few more into like me being healthy. So that was my first
Okay.
time that I was like, oh, I broke 14. That's good.
In the
I'm
5K,
getting
yeah.
somewhere in the 5K. And then my fifth year, I ran. I was training well at this point. I should say I was training very well, but I could not figure out how to just put it together in races.
Okay.
It wasn't like I didn't feel like I was a workout hero, like I was selling myself in workouts to hit certain times. I felt like I was training at a good intensity, but just it was more mental than anything. I just couldn't figure out how to get to that next level in races. Um, and so that 13:57 was really one of the only times I felt like I ran to my potential. Up until my fifth year, I started to figure things out mentally a little bit more. Um, and part of that was I got broken up with like right at the beginning of the winter. And let me tell you, breakup fitness is something else. You have to learn the hard way, but there's like something about it that just takes you to another level. So after I got broken up, I feel like I just focused even more heavily on running. So I ran 7:51 in the 3K that indoor season. And that was like 2 weeks before everything went to crap because of the
Gotcha.
pandemic. So and I was like, oh, I'm finally starting to figure it out. I ran this time that sort of valid. And it's funny, my coach after the race, he wasn't even like, yeah, like, school record, like 7:51, huge PB. He literally just shook my hand. And he said, it's about time. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
all right. So like, that's how you feel. And it's like, it's nice to know that like my coaches had that confidence in me the entire time.
Mm.
And I was just kind of not living up to expectations and finally seemed to be getting there. And then I time trialed with two pacers on my high school track right before going to Boulder in June that year, a 401 mile. So those are my mile, 401, 7:51 3K, and 13:57 5K. And the 13:57 might sound kind of impressive to most people, but like I was 100% in a lot better shape than that
Mm.
when I ran that 7:51 401. And I tend to get a little bit better as it goes up. So, I always think that maybe if I was in the right race, I could have run under 13:40 in the 13:35 range. So it's a bit of a shame that that's still, that just under 14 is my PB, but it's what it is. And then I didn't really do much racing after that because there weren't races going on. We were in Boulder, we were at altitude, we weren't going to really race at altitude, and we didn't want to we didn't know what was going on with flights. We didn't know if the races that were planned were actually going on. So like I
Mm.
was just training, and I ran I paced my friend Spencer to a time trial just like randomly on the track one morning when we moved to Seattle. He ran 402. I finished the race and ran 407.
Jeez.
And that's kind of it. I ran one 5K. I think I ran 1406 that February off of like very little mileage and almost entirely like bike training. And then that's kind of been the end of my track career.
All right. Well, that's amazing. Thank you for telling
Yeah.
us about that. So when you got the DM from Talbot, did you know anything about Lionel? Did you look him up afterwards? And what did you think of Lionel when you met him and Talbot and the whole
Yeah.
triathlon world?
Well, I think that it was January of 2021 or February, early February, maybe late January, something. And the first triathlon I had watched was early December. It was Challenge Daytona. So I knew about Lionel from that point. And I checked out his YouTube videos, and yeah. So but I still wasn't like a triathlete.
Yeah.
I didn't care too much. But I was just amazed when I got the DM because I did know who he was. I knew he's such a big deal in the triathlon world. So
Yeah.
I definitely did start watching the videos a little bit more after that.
All right. And then, I mean, first impressions must have been good. He's giving you his bike and getting you into the sport, and that must have been incredible. And what did you learn from Lionel being out there training with him?
I mean, Lionel is he's such a great guy. He's such a nice guy. And obviously, I went back and trained with him again last, what was that, 2022, at the start of 2022 for several months. It unfortunately didn't work out how either of us hoped it would, but he's just such a good guy. And I know you talked to Trevor Foley, who's training with him now. I'm sure he's had similar things to say.
Yeah.
And just the way that Lionel is able to like make himself hurt was one of the things that I was sort of deficient in. Like that was one of the reasons that I felt like I could never reach my full potential in races. It's like in a workout, you don't have to go to you don't have to go to the well. You're not supposed to go to the well. And then when you have to in a race, I just always faltered. I could never just make the decision to just go. And Lionel, on the other hand, like 3 times a day, he'll just be like, okay, I'm going to end myself for this workout.
Wow.
So even though I was in a lot better, I was in pretty good running fitness back then, and I would just like lead every rep of this workout and kind of try to press the pace down, and he would just hang on. And it was impressive for me to see because I knew what kind of shape he was in and what kind of shape I was in, and the way that he would just see somebody in front of him and be like, I'm not letting you go. That was something for me to aspire to, just like that level of being able to flip a switch and just make yourself hurt like that. And he's the master of that. Everyone kind of knows just from seeing the way he races.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So when did you decide to go all in then? Was it when you went down there with Lionel and quit your job, or were you still software engineering at that point?
So I quit my job a little bit before then in December. And this is, I share all of the ups and downs on my YouTube channel. So in January 2021, my sister passed away from a fentanyl overdose. She had been, struggling with addiction for what felt like my entire adult life. So she passed away in early January. And obviously, my job, my boss, my managers were like, go take the time you need. And then I think it was like 2 weeks. They didn't want to be pushy, but they're like, hey, can we maybe start offloading your projects to other people? Just kind of get on meetings, let them know what's going on. And I was kind of like, no, I can do it. I can work on this project. And I would just sit there. I have these memories of just like sitting there with my computer open for the first time in a few weeks, trying to just figure out what like line of code to write, and none of it felt like it mattered. I was just like, I don't want to, like, this doesn't feel like it matters to me at all. I don't care that I'm making money from this. It's not like, I'm not passionate about it at all. And I didn't hate my job, but it just didn't felt like it meant anything. And so I kind of thought about it for a little bit, didn't tell my parents. And I told my manager that I wanted to be done. And that was that. I was like, all right, I guess I have like some savings, and I have this YouTube channel that like I make a marginal amount of money in ad revenue, and it wasn't planned out at all. It was just, I just felt like I couldn't bring myself to keep doing my job, and all I wanted to do was just train. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing it. It wasn't a smart decision. I spent the better part of the last 2 years like pretty much completely broke, sometimes just like wondering how I'm going to pay off my credit card.
Wow.
And I'm alive, like I made it here, and I did not have to beg my parents for a single dollar, which was like my goal with it. So it's like if I had to do that, then I would know it's over and I have to get a job. So it was early January was kind of when I decided like that this is what matters to me, is just figuring out how good I can be. And I don't have enough time to do that in the day with this job that I don't really care about anymore. So yeah, sometime mid to end of January, I just sent it.
Wow, that's amazing. And then get the DM from Lionel, and it seemed to take off from there. I think you're super fascinating to dive into each of the triathlon legs, and you can kind of take us through what training is like for them, because I mean, you didn't have any swimming background really, and the bike just
No.
came out of, recovering from an injury. So let's dive first into the swim. Take us through what that was like when you first started, what the paces were when you first began. Did you feel like you had some natural talent? And it seems like you're going pretty quick these days in the swim. So maybe take us through how that's happened.
I want to say that my Strava, my watch is completely wrong when I'm doing open water. It'll say I'm like averaging 110 for 5K. Like it's just completely wrong.
All
It's
right.
yeah. So I get comments, people being like, "Man, you're getting really good at swimming." I'm like, "No, not like not yet, not yet. Maybe one day." So I don't remember the exact workout. I can tell you the first week, the first day, I I had to stop after like I don't think I made it to 3K because I had like a foot or a calf cramp. And Justin Slade, the coach at Aqua Bear, was like, "Just you're done. You get out. You don't come back from that." Um,
Ah,
and but I remember that first week we were doing hundreds, and I was swimming like low to mid 120s, like sort of
geez.
one, yeah, one, let's say 125 per 100 yards just to average it out. And then quit like within 2 or 3 weeks, I was trying to swim like under 120 pace for every rep. And there, I don't think I ever did a rep like above 200. So yeah, we're talking 50s, 75s, 100s, 150s, that kind of thing. The odd 200 where I was trying to just swim 120 per 100 yards. And it was hard. And a lot of those workouts, I remember being like, I would just swim 120. And I got really good at swimming 120 pace, but then like halfway, 3/4 of the way through the workout, I would just tank, right? Because it was
Gotcha.
like it was still a faster than threshold sort of pace. I couldn't hold for the whole session. Um,
That's
and then
crazy. To quickly
yeah,
interrupt you, that's super fast starting out. I remember Lionel saying he was in the 2 minutes when he was picking up swimming. Were people telling you that you've got something here?
they um, it's always hard to tell. Like I
Okay.
posted maybe 4 weeks in, like I'd been swimming for a month and I wanted to do a time trial, and I was working with a coach, James Peterson, at this point, who eventually I went to train with in New Hampshire, and he was like, "Okay, let's just see where you are, do a 500 time trial." So, and I swam 6:38, which going in, I was like, okay, I want to swim I want to swim 119s, or 119.9, whatever, just under 640. So I swam 6:38 for 500 about a month in, and people in the comments, some people were like, "Oh, is that meters? Like you're insane." But even the people in who knew it was yards were like, "Yo, that's pretty good." But like it's always hard to tell what's real, and I had no idea. Like I couldn't even tell you what line. I think Lionel was just swimming like 112s for that same kind of thing, maybe faster. But I didn't have enough knowledge of swimming
Mm,
to even understand what really good people were swimming. And there was a good group of short course triathletes training there, and I didn't. None of the times made sense to me. It was just like in one ear, out the other. And even funny to me, like you um you didn't say 108 in running, you say 68, so they would always say 108, and I was like, it just sounded weird to me. Like people say, "Oh yeah, I was swimming 105s, 106s." It's like I was always just, yeah, you swim 65, 66. So even just the terminology, like that tiny little thing, like scrambled my brain a little bit.
yeah.
um so it took me a long time to even understand what other people were swimming for me to compare myself to it. So I thought like I could be solid, I
Yeah.
guess, but and looking back now, I mean, like I'm still a very bad. Maybe I'm turning myself into a mid pack swimmer soon. I'll have to do a sort of ocean swim this weekend in Oregon. Won't say much given it's downriver, but
Yeah.
um, I didn't think I was like super talented, but I thought
Okay.
it was maybe par, I guess,
Okay.
for just starting out for like someone who wants to be a professional.
Interesting. So take us through what's been like a game changer in the swim. What has taken you from the beginning now to that mid pack swimmer?
I've been on an adventure, I'll say. So I trained with Lionel for a couple months, and then I went to New Hampshire, which was a very short course focused group. And there was we did like 20 by 100, pretty much maximal on like very little rest. every Tuesday.
Mm.
And so I got really good at that workout. And we weren't doing long reps. We weren't doing like short sprinting reps. It was kind of just like that VO2 max. What can you hold for 20 by 100? So I ended up getting pretty good. I, was able to hold 112 average on the 125 interval for that workout by the end of my time in New Hampshire. And then went back to Tucson to train with Lionel starting in January 2022. And she was starting with Mikhail Eden at that point, and the swimming was a lot of like true LT2. We were taking lactate in the pool, and I started getting slower. And I didn't know why. And, Lionel, I think, experienced something similar. Like, you could go back and see his YouTube videos. It was like the training was, we weren't sprinting. We weren't doing your standard sprint sets. We were doing 7 by 500 LT2. And so I verifiably got slower in the pool and in the open water. And so eventually, and I was still doing that when I went out back on my own to Seattle over the summer. And it took me a while, and I've been coaching myself since then. And so basically just adding back in a good amount of speed, basically on the idea that I'm a developing swimmer, and I'm thinking from a developing runner. Like if you're even if you're trying to just do a half marathon or a 70.3, I think if you want to be a good Ironman runner, a half Ironman runner, you need to be a good runner, and a good runner needs to know how to sprint. A good runner needs to be able to run a solid 400. You need to develop every part of that intensity spectrum to develop as an athlete, right? And if you're very developed, you can maybe just focus in on one thing. But I was like, I'm a developing swimmer. I need to learn how to sprint. I need to learn how to hold, a pretty good pace, swimming faster 50s on a tight interval, or swim really fast 50s on a lot of rests. I need to be able to swim a bunch of different paces comfortably, and adding in sort of other stroke, like odd strokes. And a lot of this is just what I've learned from, let's say I listened to the How They Train podcast with John Rogers and talking to Greg Harper, who's probably one of the best swimmers in North America. And swimmers swim a lot. They swim a lot of volume. So I'm swimming kind of, as much volume as I can handle, which I was trying 30K a week, which was too much. Now I'm down to low 20s. I'm doing drills and technique work, which for a while I kind of thought didn't work because, again, I'm coming from running, and I was like, I don't think technique work really works on running. You just have to run to get more efficient. I'm sprinting, I'm doing long aerobic reps. I'm doing kick sets. I'm doing IM.
Wow.
So really just trying everything has led to improvement, and it's still slow. The gains take a long time to come. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. I've just kind of been looking up on YouTube drills to do this, trying to learn how to swim butterfly, trying to learn how to swim other strokes, trying to get my kick sets and pull sets a little bit faster. And that slowly, and it also makes it less boring. So, you're not just like 7 by 500 is probably the most boring workout you could possibly do. So, so just trying a little bit of everything, and trying to swim like a swimmer is kind of what I'm on right now.
All right. Love it. I think that's good to hear for a lot of the listeners and age groupers out there that, even the pros like yourself, you're doing all the drills and doing all the stuff that you probably sometimes don't even want to do. So, yeah. All right. And then, okay, onto the bike next. Did that take off pretty quick as well when you were recovering from your injury and running?
Yeah. So the first time I got the trainer and I got on the bike, and I was like, I had heard of FTP, and people, I put it on Instagram when I got the bike trainer, put the box on Instagram. People said, oh, like do an FTP test. And I was like, okay, look up what is FTP. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Your 1 hour power, whatever. So I go on the Zwift FTP test. And this wasn't a real one because you're supposed to do a very hard or near maximal 5 minutes first. And I think it had me do like 200 watts because it didn't know what to set it at. So I was like, okay, this is weird. And so, but then the 20-minute test after that, I did, it was like 345 watts or so on this Wahoo kicker power meter. And I didn't know, I didn't know what that meant. I looked it up afterwards, I was like 345 watts at, whatever, 70 kilos. That is what I was at that time. Like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. Like, I'm pretty solid just starting out. And then a month later, after a bunch of training, which is also when I started the YouTube channel. I did, I want to say it was like 360, 357 for 20, with an actual harder 5 minute interval
Yeah.
before it to sort of tire the legs out. So that one was a bit more accurate. So yeah, I mean that whole thing, I felt like the fitness I had from running just translated over really well, and it's not really technical. It's just you kind of just turn the pedals over,
Yeah.
and I felt pretty good at it pretty immediately. And I actually experienced a similar thing where I was getting better and better and better throughout, this entire like period all the way up to New Hampshire until going back to train with Lionel and doing the quote unquote Norwegian method, which just, part of that was overtraining a lot and digging myself a big hole. But again, I got worse. And that's part of what made that time in Tucson so unfortunate is I was literally getting worse every single week.
Yeah.
Just like looking at these numbers. And yeah, it took me a long time. And again, just adding back in some VO2 max, some speed, some sprinting on the bike to sort of feel like I'm back. Now I feel like, okay, I'm in the best bike shape I've ever been. I've never been able to hit these numbers and these speeds before.
Yeah.
But in similar to the swim, I felt like I was on a very upward trajectory, and then doing the Norwegian stuff in Tucson, and there are a lot of confounding factors there in Tucson. I don't think it was just the training, but I had a big sort of downward spiral, and then it took a while to climb back out of it. But yeah, the bike, I mean, there's nothing. It was just kind of got on the bike and was able to push decent watts.
Wow, that's great. And then nowadays, is the bike a big focus? Like such a high level in the sport? Do you spend a lot of time on the bike? And maybe take me through what a normal week looks like for you.
Yeah, I bike about 10 hours a week, and I've tried to be, like a big volume guy. I would love to be able to swim 35K a week and bike 15 hours and run, 70 miles a week, but I can't do that. I break down so quickly. So a good week for me is 10 hours on the bike. Monday is an hour very easy because I go long on Sunday. No
Mhm.
bike Tuesday, easy 90 minute bike Wednesday. Thursday is the big sort of session day. So, depending on where I am in the season, it'll be, hill reps, VO2 max reps. If I'm, getting closer to a race, I'll do more threshold sort of race specific stuff like I've been doing the last few weeks. No bike Friday and Saturday, and then a big bike usually around 5 hours, maybe with a bit of intensity or just whatever I have in the legs, that I feel I can do it all over again the next week. And then yeah, repeat, and that usually ends up being about 10, sometimes 11 hours, depending on what I have planned. And so it's 4 bikes a week, and which before I would have thought, oh,
Oh,
that's way too little. I need to add in another one. But when I was starting to sort of write this training schedule, I was like, look, you always do too much. And the bike is the least technical of the three. It's the least like susceptible to having poor feel for the machine or for the bike.
hmm.
So you can probably get away with 4 bikes a week, and it'll give you extra time to recover. And it seems to be working. So that's a pretty standard week. Is just one hard workout, one long ride, which may have intensity depending on how I feel, and then the rest is it's an easy 1 hour ride to recover from the big effort, and then just like a 90-minute endurance ride the day before the workout, and that's a bike week.
That's great to hear that that's working for you. And I think it shows how there's so much, one thing can work for one athlete and something can really not work for another athlete. And,
Yeah,
especially when we hear about these days with some people training 20 hours a week on the bike. And yeah, so that's really great to hear.
whatever works for them. That's a huge thing for me. Has just been finding what works for me, because everyone is so individual. I think the only thing that works for everyone is just consistency.
Yeah, great point. Okay, so take us now through the run. I want to hear how that's training is different to how you were training before.
Yeah, obviously in college you're doing, I built my way up for basically 2 straight years almost. I probably averaged around 100 miles a week. And it took me a long time to get to that point. And there were 2 workouts, it was like pretty hard workout Tuesday, pretty hard workout Friday, long run Saturday or Sunday, sometimes over 2 hours. So it was a lot of volume and a lot of intensity. And, we do strides and a lift on Monday, strides on Wednesday, lift on Thursday. Like there was something every single day.
Hmm.
Obviously that's just impossible, or in the current moment, that is impossible for me to do now. So it's the same, similar to the bike and the swim for me, actually. The run, all three disciplines follow a similar schedule that I've kind of settled on. It's just one big workout. So I do the big workout Tuesday evenings usually. So I have a hard swim Tuesday morning, then big run workout Tuesday evening. And that's kind of it for intensity for the week. And for me, coming off, I had, an Achilles injury the most of the winter. So my focus on the run is nothing specific, honestly. It's just trying to get through workouts healthy. So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to do 12 by K at this intensity, trying to get this specific stimulus, it started with, okay, if I'm going to do 10 by K and I'm going to start at this pace and I'm going to descend a little bit to see how the legs are feeling. I'm not too concerned with getting the most exact specific stimulus for this, to achieve this demand. I'm just trying to stack one more week on top of last one. So it's really just been trying to get my body and Achilles used to running faster again. So like slowly introducing more faster work, like speed work, started with hills so that, I get the metabolic stimulus before I go do it on flats.
Interesting.
That's actually been most of the focus is, it's like what killed me before. And what I think led to the injury was just hammering speed. Like I was a collegiate track runner.
Oh, right.
When I just had taken too much time off of it. So I'm trying to just slowly reintroduce the tendons back into running faster. So it's been, hill reps, 200s here and there, a lot of like 400s on short rest that are like faster than threshold. So it's still sort of a threshold stimulus, I guess, but I am able to run faster. And just one workout a week and then a long run at the end of the week. And the rest of the day I'll have an easy run off the bike on Thursday. And otherwise it's just kind of run an hour and twice a week do some strides. And I'm settled at about 45 miles a week.
Okay.
Holding pretty steady there. 5 runs a week.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, good to hear. So, okay, we're moving quickly on because I want to get to Oregon 70.3 and talk to you about that and how you feel about that. But I want to hear first about how your triathlon career has gone so far, your thoughts on it, and what you'd like to do with it, where you're hoping to head with it.
Yeah, again, it did not go the way I thought. To be honest, I was cocky to start because I was training with Lionel and I was like, oh, I'm already pushing these numbers on the bike. And I'm already, as far as pedigree, I'm one of the best runners in the sport. And of course, track running is different than running off the bike. But these were my thoughts. I was like, the swim will come along. Like I feel like I'm at a pretty good starting point. Like I'm a faster on day one than Sam Long and Lionel were, and these guys are winning races now. So I figured it would be a quick road for me to being competitive. And I was very, very wrong. And it wasn't that I didn't respect the competition. I just had no idea. I had no idea what sort of numbers everyone else was doing. And I started to figure that out over time, being like, oh, okay, I actually have a lot. Like I am so much farther from the top than I thought I was. Which is fine. It's like, whatever, I'll just grind. I'll just keep grinding. It's, I wasn't doing it necessarily to be the best. I was doing it because I liked the training and it appealed to me more. But I thought I would do better than 19th at my first pro 70.3. I got my pro license pretty quick at USAT Age Group Nats, a couple months into my career. 3 weeks later, got on the pro start list for 70.3 main. And I came 19th, and I thought I biked well, ran well. And, but I was last out of the water. And I experienced what, these bike packs were like, where it's just dudes, kind of helping each other out. A lot of people getting a free ride. So I was like, that was a shock to just be that far back in a race where I thought I would be competitive off the bat. And then my second pro race at Indian Wells, I did not have a very good nutrition plan, and it blew up in my face pretty bad. My goal quickly became just keep running just don't walk. Like I was cramping so bad in my stomach. And then yeah, after that, I went to train with Lionel full time, and that again, that wasn't good for my ego because I was like, oh well, if Lionel Sanders wants me to be his training partner, I must be this good.
I think the same.
And
Don't worry.
yeah, and then that, as I said, it just kind of went downhill, like the exact opposite. I thought it was going to be a launch pad for my career, and it was the complete opposite. And so, but like anything, it was a huge learning experience to, put myself in an environment where I would be successful. And I didn't know what that was before. And now I know that it's basically a place where I'm around friends and that the focus is not always on training.
Yeah.
Like it's good for me to, like, my friends always want to do stuff. They're always asking me if I want to go to the park and play spike ball. That's been the thing the last few weeks, but it's like, oh, okay, let's go play disc golf. Let's go to a brewery and get some beers. And it's good for me to have things to say no to. And there was nothing for me in Tucson to say no to. It was just training. Like the only thing I could say no to was training. And I never wanted to say no to that. And so I just dug myself a huge, huge hole. And so now I'm around friends, and I never didn't love training, but I feel like I figured out how to make training go in the right direction and make it sustainable. And yeah, so I felt like I was pulled myself out of the gutter last year. I was 11th at 70.3 Oregon, 8th at Santa Cruz, and then 9th at Indian Wells. And like if you look at the PTO scores, were all like ascending. Each one was better than the last, which reflected how I felt about them. And so I came into 2023 ready to like try to consistently be in the money, maybe get a top 5, maybe in the right race if I pick my races correctly, maybe get a podium. And I also, my running fitness came back like with a force.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what, my PB is 401. I bet that I can break 4 while I train for 70.3s. And that ultimately led to the Achilles injury, just more greed, more hubris, overestimating my abilities, my tendon strength, things like that. So instead of building up to give it a good run to start the season in Oceanside, I was rehabbing my Achilles. So yes, ideally I would have raced 2 or 3 times by now. But I only did one local triathlon where I was second to sort of just get one under the belt. And now, 70.3 Oregon will be my first one of the season. So I kind of feel like the season's just getting started. But I still do feel like I am in a lot better shape than last year when I was 11th.
Wow.
So to a certain extent, I felt like I had a good start in the sport. I felt like I had a lot of potential, and I felt like there was a lot of hype around me, partly because of social media. Sort of definitely did get to my head, and then I had this huge just downturn where I felt like, oh, I have all this talent and I'm not delivering at all. But I had to learn to just, everything comes in its time. I have to go at my own pace. Everyone develops differently. And so now I feel like, okay, I'm maybe, I don't know, a year behind where I thought I would be, but I'm ready now to try to compete. So that's my mindset going into the race. That's kind of how I feel about my career. Like, it was a quick start, huge downturn, and then a slow, pushing the rock back up the hill sort of thing. But I feel like I'm pretty far along now.
It's great to hear. I bet you're probably got so much pent up energy to go race here at Oregon. That's probably why you had to do the Onion Man there a couple weeks ago, right?
I wouldn't say so. I feel like I'm the kind of guy, I like training. I don't dislike racing. I would say there's a lot of two types of athletes. Some people just love racing, and some people kind of dread racing and just do it to train. And that's another reason, going all the way back to why I could never put it together in races in college, is I just loved training, and racing was hard for me to mentally put my head around. So that's always an area of progress, but I'm definitely nervous, and I have one goal in my head is just do better than last year. There's a lot of metrics. It's the same swim. So if I can get in a better pack or whatever, swim a little bit faster than last year, I have my bike power and my bike speed. If I can improve that from last year, and then obviously the run, it's the same course. So adjusting for conditions. You know, if I can run faster than last year, that's really my only goal. And I feel I'm very calm. I wouldn't say I have this pent up energy going into these races. I feel like
Oh,
I've
cool.
done the work that I needed to do, and I'm very confident that if I execute correctly on race day, I will be a lot better than I was last year. But doing Onion Man was just too long, and I need to remember what it's like to race. And it was a good reminder because it sucked. It was really hot, and I just forgot how much it hurts. So I just really had to like rip the Band-Aid off there.
Oh, cool. So the rest of your season, it might be kind of nice in a way that you're kind of just starting out now, basically. So, what does the rest of the season look like for you?
So I've got 70.3 Oregon this Sunday, and then I'm flying back to the East Coast where I grew up to see my family and race 70.3 Maine the following Sunday.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be my first back-to-back 73 racing. So curious about that. And then just yesterday on a whim, I signed up for a 50K here in Washington, 50K trail race. Just I don't know how much I'll train. Like I'll train to make sure I can finish it, but I'm gonna still be training for triathlon. And then we'll see Augusta and Michigan. Those 70.3s are pretty good timing. But I have half an eye on Ironman Florida because two of my friends who live in Southern Washington, or one of them is definitely doing it, and then me and the other friend, Evan Price, we keep talking about it. So I'm definitely, I would say it's probably still like 60% chance I don't do it, 40% I do, but like we're moving up from like 95.5. You know, it's slowly like
Wow.
starting to appeal to me more, just to do something that scares me. You know, it's not always about going in there thinking I can win or thinking I'm in great Ironman shape. I think just the prospect of going there and doing a race that long I've never done before is appealing. So I might take the rest of the season after that September race to 50K to just focus on which is it's only 2 months after. So it's like an 8-week block, 7 weeks of training, 1 week taper into Ironman Florida potentially.
Potentially.
But might still opt for 70.3s for the rest of the year. I'm not sure. It's all up in the air after that 50K.
Wow. Well, that'll be fun to tag along and watch if you do make videos around it, which I'm sure you will. So I'm kind of rooting
Yeah.
you do it. And I'm sure
Yeah.
it would come with lots of lessons doing that race.
Certainly. Yeah. That's the other thing. Just learning, doing things out of my comfort zone. There's a lot more learning to be had there than, not that I have figured out 70.3s at all, but anything I do learn is probably going to be pretty minor compared to what I would learn doing a 50K trail race or my first Ironman.
Yeah, that's pretty fun too. Get mix in some fun as well. Hey?
Yeah.
I met Evan as well before at a race in Oregon, and he would be a
Nice.
fun guy to do that with too.
He's doing the 50. Well, he might be. He might. His coach said he gave him the okay to sign up for the 50K, so
Right.
he might be in there too. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Last question before I give you a hot question and then some rapid fire.
Sure.
Thanks so much for your time. So I briefly asked it earlier. What are your goals for the sport, or if you retired from it, how would you be happy?
Um.
Tough one, I know.
No, it's not tough at all. I'm trying to
Okay.
figure out how to word it.
Hmm.
If you're not happy before you reach the goals, you won't be happy afterwards. That is the biggest lesson I've learned over the last 2 years. And in running too. That there was no achievement that I had that gave me great joy. I would cross the line and for 1 minute say, "Yes, I did it. All the training paid off." And I'd say, "What's next? I'm not good
Hmm.
enough." So yeah, I would like to do things that are fun, and I want to learn as much as I possibly can. And if I have a goal, my goal has been the same for many years since I was struggling in college. I just want to figure out how good I can be at endurance sports. At triathlon, at whatever. I'm sure I'm going to do this trail race, and I'm going to want to do another one. And I don't think that a 4-hour trail race and a 4-hour triathlon, the training is going to be too different to be successful at both. So for me, it's just just trying to be as good as I can at triathlon, endurance sports. Probably won't go back to track running anytime soon, but maybe some sort of bike racing, gravel racing. I'm sure I'll get the itch at some point. Just endurance sports in general. I want to see how far I can go.
Amazing. Thank you for that perspective too. I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of us can learn from that. And yeah, appreciate that. Okay, on to the hot question. This was coming after Ironman CEO retired, but I thought a better one would be, if you could be the CEO of the PTO, what would you do if you were in charge of that startup, basically?
Oh man, that is. I can't say anything because I think they're doing so like I don't think they're making too many mistakes for a new organization. Yeah, I mean they're on YouTube. They're on YouTube. They're putting on these races. I mean they're doing well as far as like keeping the drafting away out of their races. Their races are fair. Their races are really good broadcast. I wish I had a better answer or a funny answer, but I think they're doing really well, and they have a budget to work off of. That they seem to be doing a good job. I guess I definitely, they're not doing the Collins Cup this year, but I would have done something maybe more like a team triathlon or something where you like, oh God, it would be sick if you had, US International and Europe, but you split like a relay and you could have a couple people swimming. You're basically a team swim and like a team time trial. And basically you just try to get your guy across the line first. And so like something like that. I thought the Collins Cup was pretty boring. But no, the 100K distance is that's pretty spot on. I'm not sure I would change that.
Oh, that's cool.
Sorry for such a boring answer.
No,
yeah, but I gotta say I think they're doing a good job. If it was Ironman, I would definitely just pay the pros more. I mean,
yeah. I've asked that one before to other interviewees, and they've all said kind of the same thing. So I figured I'd ask you that hard one for the PTO, but that's an answer in itself to hear that, you guys think they're doing it right now. And I love the idea of a team time trial. So I'll back you on that one. Okay. What do you think of the US Open start list? Who's your pick for the win on the men's and women's side?
I'm going to go out and I'm going to say Sam Long wins it.
Wow.
I think he's hot. And I don't know. It's tough because he was so hot on the 70.3 circuit in the US. And it's one of those things where everyone says it's the North American circuit. Look at what Magnus Ditlev did at Roth. But I don't know. I mean, Sam almost won it in Texas last year. And he seems to be on another level this year, and potentially some dad strength coming into the fold. Yeah, I'm gonna say Sam Long for the win. We'll go Team USA. Somehow narrowly edging out Christian Blumenfeld. I'm gonna say there's some bike dynamics that gives Sam Long a 1.5 lead, 2-minute lead, and he just hangs on. And then Jason West runs up for third for a 1-3 American podium.
Brilliant. And the women's?
And the women's. I mean, it's hard to say anyone other than Ashley Gentle at this distance in these conditions, which are going to be good. It's not going to be anything crazy, especially Anhog's not on here. So go, but I'm going to say Paula Finley wins it, actually. Paula, I had dinner with Paula. We had dinner with Paula and Eric in Bend. So I was already a huge Paula fan, but now I'm an even bigger one. And she's coming off of the Canadian time trial champs. And that is having biked there for age group Nats, and I assume they're just going to do that loop twice. So good course for a good time trialist. So I'm going to say Paula Finley gets off the bike with a huge lead, Ashley Gentle second, and Tamara Jewett third.
Oh, great picks. Love it. Yeah. All right. Thanks for that. Okay, let's do some rapid fire.
Go for it.
If you weren't a triathlete, would you still be a software engineer?
Probably, I guess. Yeah. I don't know why I would have. Probably.
All right. Horrible chafing or terrible GI issues? Which one would you rather?
GI issues.
All right.
Dude, chafing. I can run through GI issues. I cannot run through chafing. I mean, it's yeah.
Good one. Okay. Organized or unorganized?
I'm unorganized. Yeah.
Same.
Very unorganized.
Hence the blurred background back there.
Yeah.
Hip hop or rock before a race?
Hip hop.
Hip hop. Okay.
Yeah.
Pasta or pizza?
Pizza.
Pizza.
Easy.
Sprint finish or dominate the whole race?
Sprint finish.
Oh wow! All right.
I want to be in a sprint finish so bad because I back myself against literally anybody in the world. 150 to go, literally anybody in the world, any runner in the world. Name them. 150 to go, I will win.
I would love to set that up. Come on, PTO. We need more exhibition events. Set that one up.
Obviously you got to be there, 99.5, 99.7 Ks in there, but that's my biggest issue. But 150 to go, yeah, you can ask Lionel. My whatever college teammates. I've got a pretty decent kick.
All right. Professional runner or a professional triathlete? Last one.
Triathlete.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
easy.
How come?
Financially, there's so much more room for growth. Being a pro runner is so restrictive. You have basically your one sponsor, which is your shoe contract. They're paying you basically your entire salary. You can maybe get some small, like even Josh Kerr, who runs for the Beast. He's got most of his salary from the Beast. I think he has an Oakley deal. And I'm not sure what else. Maybe some nutrition sort of thing. But triathletes, you have your bike, you have your shoes, you have your race kit, you have your wetsuit / swim sponsor, you have your nutrition sponsor. Like you can have a tire sponsor, you can have a wheel sponsor, you can have a group set sponsor. You could literally get a paid sponsor for so many different things if you are a big enough name and they think that you're good enough marketing for them. Yeah, and just I think triathlon is so much more fun than pro running. And that's why I ultimately made the switch. Track running is this like super high pressure. Like you can be on a good day and the margins are still so absurdly slim that like you might just not get there, even if like you've done, and it's the same in triathlon, but it's just different when the margins are like a 1/10 of a second, even over like a 5K. And yeah, track running, there's no variation. There's no real variation in course, and even road running, I don't find all that exciting compared to the 3 individual disciplines of triathlon where you might move forward and move back in any one. And I think it's easier to like do something heroic, come back from a huge deficit, or hold on the run when you're being chased down, something like that. Yeah. So, and just the training, I really do love swimming. It's very meditative, very zen. And I love biking, and I still love running. So I didn't have to stop doing that. So.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. It sounds perfect for you.
Yeah.
A guy who loves training.
Maybe a bit too much.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that overtraining now you sounds like you've got it sorted and you're on the up.
You never have it sorted. You always this is how it goes. Right. I'll train, maybe best case scenario, I'll train really well for a couple of years and then I'll get greedy and the cycle repeats. That's how it goes.
Oh man. Well, hopefully not, because honestly, there's so many of us and a lot of us that, a lot of friends I talk to, we all track you, and I think a lot of people are the same. Everybody's on the tracker, checking where ARI KLAU is at.
I love that. Appreciate it.
Love following your progress. Is there anything else you'd like to add and tell people where they can follow you?
Oh, yeah. Just check out my YouTube channel. Use my Ketone IQ discount code. No, that's it. Yeah. Just YouTube, Instagram. I'm trying to, I post most weeks or a couple times a month on YouTube. Just still making training videos, sometimes sitting down and just talking about a topic. That's the best place to see what's going on with me. I'm horrible at responding to Instagram DMs, so not the best place to get in touch. You can join my Discord's not very active right now, but I have it going for a little bit.
Cool.
But yeah, mostly YouTube. That's the biggest plug.
Love it. And all the listeners out there, I'll back that. It's so fun to watch. And Ari, I hope you keep it as real as it is on there for the future to come when you get too good for the rest of us.
That's not gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. I will keep humbling myself time and time again. on
All right.
YouTube for everyone to see.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thanks for your honesty and your realness there, and really appreciated this conversation. I thought it was super fun, and I'm excited to see you in person at 70.3 Oregon, and yeah, hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Travis, and yeah, looking forward to meeting you in a couple days.
It's gonna be great. Awesome. Thanks, Ari.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the video. If you're new around here, then don't forget to subscribe. This channel is all about helping triathlon become a huge sport through weekly news videos, highlights, motivational videos, race reporting, and anything else you can think of, with a splash of my own triathlon journey thrown in. The goal is for this to become the YouTube hub for everything professional triathlon, and I would love to do it full time to give back to you and create an amazing community. To help me do that, I need you to get behind me by supporting me for the price of a gel on either Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. You can also join in on the conversation on Discord and follow me on Instagram. The more support, the more content. And don't forget, it's simple. Try every day. We'll see you in the next one.